Hey, how's it going? I'm going to do a little video blog about what happened to me 20 years ago, maybe to the day, but who knows because I don't remember much about 20 years ago. But I had testicular cancer. So I went through cancer treatment in my early 20s. 43 now. I think I was about 23. I could have been 24, so it could only be the 19-year anniversary. But that is crazy that that much time has passed. I did during COVID a live video talking about this, and it got deleted for some reason. So it's gone forever, and I was very proud of it. And since it's been about 5 years since that, I thought now would be a good time to talk a little bit about what happened back then and the things I dealt with going through chemotherapy and through the treatment for testicular cancer and my feelings on it. And maybe it'll help someone who is going through the same thing or knows someone that is. First things to say, really, because often when I tell people I've had cancer, is that they tilt their head to the side and they give you lots of very soft talking sympathies for your terrible time. It wasn't that hard. I was fine, I think. From what I remember, it never really sank in, and then by the time it did, my hair had grown back and I was fine. So, in my early 20s, I was in, like I am now, I was into going to the gym. I looked after myself reasonably well for someone in the mid 20s, and none of it was that difficult. The treatment, the illness, the worst of it was getting the testicle removed. So let's kind of go through that really. So I found a lump. This is maybe from the beginning. I'll keep all of this in because I do not edit. I just talk and hope it makes sense. So I'd broken up with my girlfriend at that time and she'd moved out. And I remember being in the shower of the flat that we had rented together, and I was moving out, and I think it was on one of the last days I was in that flat. I was in the shower and I was like, ow, there was a fly in here. I was like, ow, why do my balls hurt so much? It was quite painful. I felt around and I was like, there's definitely something going on there. And it was like making me try and get away from my own hand. So I got a doctor's appointment that like as soon as I got out of the shower, which to be honest is probably rare for me. I don't remember the last time I've been to the doctors, but I haven't had any reason to. So I went to the doctors and they said, you know what, let's get you to the hospital, I think right away, from what I remember. I'm pretty sure it was right away, and if it wasn't, it was the next day. And I went to the hospital, and I do remember getting the old ultrasound, so the jelly on the balls, and like a pregnant lady gets, where they look around and they're like, "Yep," and then the timings aren't in my head at all. But I think very quickly I was taken to the specialist, and they talked through that it's looking like that testicle would need to come out along with the little tumour as well. And then from there, they would be able to do a biopsy and see what the plan is. And as they took it out, they confirmed that that was cancer. And I think I was in within the week. So I think I maybe had a day or two. I definitely had at least a couple of days at home before I went in for the surgery. And they take the testicle out, one whole testicle, my right testicle, with the tumour, and coming out of that was pretty rough actually. As Noah said, it was all pretty easy. That bit wasn't very nice because I do remember, because they cut through the muscles in your belly obviously, and they pull it out through your belly. They don't pull it out through the sac. That would be too easy because you'd miss all the tubes and stuff. It's got to be the whole system right up to about here, just at kind of your waistline. So they whipped that out through my belly, and it meant that I couldn't stand up straight. It was pretty sore actually, and I remember walking around kind of stooped over for a little bit. And one of the things I do remember about this is that my brother Al come and see me, and we were passing a rugby ball around, which is what we used to do a lot to each other, just out in the garden. So it must have been summertime. I remember being outside at that point, so it must have been maybe around this kind of time of year, which we're in middle of April just now. So we'd pass a rugby ball around to each other, and I remember trying to do some kick-ups with it, just being silly, and like doing a bit too much and maybe even kicking the ball into the wound and just being like, oh, that felt terrible. But nothing bad happened from doing that. It was fine. But after having that biopsy and having the testicle removed and having that pretty rough time healing up from that, it came back that it was cancerous, so I would need to go through some treatment. I think, again, I don't even have any paperwork from this time back then at all. I've got nothing to really go back on. I know I could probably look in my medical records, but I don't know. I think I went through either 2 or 4 lots of chemotherapy. So I went to Hull. I was living in Scarborough. I went to Hull to go for my chemotherapy. And that was kind of fine. It takes a little while for the hair to fall out, which was pretty rubbish. But the actual chemotherapy thing was fine. And you stay in overnight for, I want to say, a week at a time while they drip feed in the chemotherapy. And maybe I had a cannula as well to go along with this, with a just saline drip. And I think I remember having to wee into little things that they could kind of maybe test my wee as I did it. I don't remember really, but I went and I had the chemotherapy, and at this point I think I was maybe still at work because I shaved my head down to a grade 1 or 2 in preparation. I wasn't quite ready to go full bic before my hair actually started falling out, and I do remember it falling out when I used to open up Nick's Bar, which was attached to the St Nicholas Hotel. If you're a Scarborough person, Scarborough's premier cocktail bar that was incredible and had lovely people coming in, and it was a nice bar with nice drinks made by me. But to open up, I'd have to reach up like this, and I remember kind of brushing past my hair, and I remember feeling a bit of hair falling past my face as I did that and being like, God damn it, it is time to get the razor out. So I'm pretty sure I did that myself, like in private. I think I didn't want a thing. And just so you know, 20 years ago, just in case your dates are out, there was no such thing as social media, and camera phones were certainly not a thing. So there are photos of me without hair, but there are only a handful, and I don't own many. I think I've got a passport photo of me without hair, and that's about it. I know there are more photos out there from people that I knew and were hanging around with at the time, but I don't have any of those photos. If you've got any, it'd be cool if you could send them to me. So, yep, I went through the chemotherapy. My hair fell out. I've got a reasonably normal shaped head, thankfully, but still, I could not wait for my hair to grow back going through that. Got very bored of being bald very quickly, and the way that people treat you when you are bald like that is weird, because very much like now when people tilt head to their side and give you the sympathetic look and are really sad for you having to go through something, sometimes people would be like, oh my God, Ricky, why did you shave your head? And I'd be like, well, I had cancer and I had chemotherapy. And then some people would be so kind and like very sad for me, really. And I'd be like, it's fine, I'm all right. I'm healthy and I'm here and I'm all good. And then sometimes people would be weird. They would just be like, no, you haven't. You've just shaved your head. And I'd be like, no, I haven't. I could not shave it this tight, although my hairline is retreating quickly. Back then, I had a reasonable head of hair. It was pretty thick hair, and it was smooth, baby's bum smooth. And some people were just weird and just be like, no, you haven't. You haven't had cancer. You're just saying that because you've shaved your head with a Bic razor every day. I'm like, no. That was a terrible thing to do. So I went through all of that. Didn't get ill through the chemotherapy, didn't pick up any bugs or anything, which is the danger, because the chemotherapy drops your immune system so much. You are at high risk of, if you get a cold, if you get any viruses or anything, then you can be super ill for that. But I was all right, and I think I managed to maintain eyebrows as well, which is kind of good. I was very careful with that, actually. I didn't wash my face vigorously or anything. I was very careful around the eyebrows not to mess with them, to see if I could just cling on to those hair follicles long enough. And I think it worked. So through all of that, I dealt with it in myself okay, considering. The thing that I didn't deal with very well with was telling people about it, because, and I think I probably still would find this the hardest as well, delivering bad news or delivering difficult news is, I do find hard, and I found very hard back then. So if my friends and very close friends weren't in close proximity to me, I just didn't ring them, didn't tell anyone that I didn't have to. I avoided that for the most part, which is one of my biggest regrets about that time, really, because I had and still do have good friends that just weren't living that close. And until it was done, until I started seeing people again, and I'd be like, oh, by the way, I don't have any hair. They soon found out. But at that time, having that bit of support would have been good, because I didn't drive at that time. I didn't have a driving license, and I think my stepdad was still driving, but wasn't driving very far. My dad is still driving, and again, I don't think I wanted to rely on him too much. But I think having more people around me that could have come to see me and things when I was in hospital, I really think that would have made my time just that little bit easier. But I do regret that, and it's definitely a failing of mine, is delivering hard news. I find difficult, and I definitely did going through that. But I was in myself day to day. I felt okay. I still trained as well. I went to the gym for the most part. I've always enjoyed lifting weights, and I tried as soon as I possibly could. I did that, and didn't disclose that I was going through chemotherapy on any of the PARQ forms, because I remember going to the Crown Spa, a gym that I've never been an actual member of, but I do remember training in there a couple of times for some reason, and I think it was maybe to be incognito, so that I could just go and not really know as many people. Maybe that was it. But yeah, so I trained and ate. From what I remember, I think I ate quite well, and I was pretty healthy. But that was the most difficult thing, was the telling people, really. Unless, this is a strange thing that I feel a lot in my life, faced with the situation, I deal fine. Like, I don't get nervous talking in front of groups. I don't get nervous telling people things face to face, but offering up that information willingly when it's not the time or space, like entering into someone's space to give them bad news, that is the thing I think I find hard. But if we're there to talk about the thing, or the thing is so out in the open, like I am bald, then that pressure seems to go away. I don't know what that is. Don't know what that is about me that makes me feel like that. But yeah, so I went through the chemotherapy, lost my hair, lost a testicle, still not there. They offer you, when you go for, and just, I'm sure they probably still do this, but they say, would you like a prosthetic? And I said, no. Why would you want a plastic ping pong ball floating around in your pants? That's a weird thing to me, that you would want that. Like a little prosthetic testicle that serves no purpose. I mean, who needs that? I did not. I was fine. So I declined the old ping pong ball and swapped for the old cannon and ball instead. Just the one ball and the cannon. Bless you, Bruce the Budgie. Sorry that Bruce isn't in frame. It looked nicer being square on like this. So I went through all of that and had a reasonable time of it. And I went back to work, and I think your hair loss lasts way after the chemotherapy ends. I do remember it taking such a long time to come back. And when it did come back, because my hair is pretty coarse, I think it was even more coarse back then. I think it was pretty wiry, curly back then. And I think ever since I've had chemotherapy, my hair's been a bit softer, which is a plus. But when it came back, let me tell you, that shit was soft. The softest, tightest little curls. It went so curly. It's very strange. And maybe a premonition into the future, but I was very dark around the sides and it came in really blonde on top. So it made me look like I had Dr. Phil hair when I first, or hair like my dad, like the Dougster, when that hair first started growing back. But I could, because there was hair there and it was growing, I could not bring myself to shave it again, even though I did look like I had the old monk's bald head. So I rode it out. I'm kind of glad I did, actually, because when it did grow back, it looked like I had frosted tips. And this, so 20 years ago, is around 2005. So we are talking peak emo, starting to get into skinny jeans, just the start of that, I think. Maybe not quite at skinny jeans yet, but very close. But floppy fringe time was there. I remember that my hair was super curly, so I invested in a pair of the skinny, like finger thin GHDs, and I straightened every bit of my hair that I could possibly get hold of from as soon as it possibly could. And there are plenty of photos of this. For some reason, I think something changed in technology that meant that people had cameras a bit more, because there's lots of photos of me with ridiculously straight hair. And to be fair, I did ride that out. And I remember then from straightening it, it was a little bit blonder at the ends, especially on the fringe. And it looked kind of natural, but kind of not, kind of sun-kissed. Yes, Bruce. And I was proud of that. I thought it looked good. Looking back at photos, it didn't. But at the time, maybe I was bang on trend. It was good. And I do remember being able to flick my hair out of my eyes, which is a completely new experience for me, because I had pretty long hair before that, but curly, and it would just be wiry and stiff, very much kind of like it is now, that it doesn't really move if I shake my head. And so it was kind of cool to just be like, ugh, and flick my hair out of my eyes. Which is super lame, isn't it? Yes, Bruce, super lame. Super lame. I'll maybe show you Bruce at the end of this video, because he's my best mate. I love him very much. He's the best budgie. Bruce Banner the budgie. So yeah, I straightened my hair loads, and after you've had chemotherapy, after you've had cancer, you go back for tests every, I think I maybe went back every 3 months, as much as that at first, in my recovery. And then that got less and less as time went on, and until eventually it gets to yearly, and then that's it. And they don't check me anymore. Check yourself. And that's kind of the point of this video, is if you think you're going to have testicular cancer, if you are a man, in fact, not think anything. For every man, you should be checking your junk out and being careful and really thinking about the stuff that you feel, to make sure there's nothing in there that means that you are going to have to go get that testicle whipped out. But don't be scared, because, like I said, it's not that bad. It's fine, really. Difficult times, difficult mentally, but it was all right. And I'll tell you some more things I remember, and I'm just going to keep talking until I run out of anecdotes about this time of my life. I remember after my first lot of chemotherapy, coming home and not having been for a poo in a really long time. I remember it being a really long time, like maybe a week, maybe longer. And you get a number for a specialist, or at least for the specialist's office that you can ring if you've got any questions, any worries, anything that you think is abnormal. And I remember ringing them and saying, I haven't been for a poo in ages and I feel really full, but I don't need a poo. But I feel like I'm getting towards bloated, and they got me to take a laxative. And I went to meet one of my friends near where I live now, near Fallsgrave in Scarborough. And I'd taken laxative that day, and I just remember getting this feeling like this is going to happen, and it cannot happen in a pub toilet. So I remember waddling the 10 or 15 minutes home, and this is super gross, but it just seemed like a mountain of almost, it just didn't seem like actual excrement. It didn't seem real. It didn't smell of much. It just was, it smelt really stale, but I remember it feeling horrible, like terrible. But at the end, massive relief, huge relief after that. It was fine. It was very good. Another anecdote I remember waking up out of the surgery for getting the old testicle removed, and you know, when you've had a surgery, I mean, this is the only surgery I've ever had, but you've got a lot of iodine around, and it's that kind of like browny colour, and I was starving. I was going high. I could tell that I was on the edge of being hypoglycemic, so like passing out and stuff, and I don't think I had very much money at the time. I think I was pretty skint, but I didn't have any cash, and maybe the shop didn't take cards, and I couldn't get up and walk anyway. And I was like, I don't have any food, and for some reason nobody was there. I definitely had it done in Scarborough. Definitely had it whipped out in Scarborough, but someone lent me some money to get a Mars bar from the shop, which is mental, because it was another hour or two until, or it was lunchtime or dinner time whenever I came out of surgery. Wasn't for a little while. So yeah, a stranger bought me a Mars bar, which I was very thankful for. But anyway, the original story, sorry about that, flies attacking me. The original story about that time was the iodine. I was just a bit groggy and stuff, and I remember like being like, is that blood? I don't know if it's blood. I remember buzzing for the nurse and just being like, have I got blood all over me, around my legs? And I remember the guy being like super worried whether I was all right, whether I was bleeding. And he whipped it all back and he was like, no, man, that's just the iodine. Chill out. But I remember not being fully in the room at that point after being under general anaesthetic and you're all groggy and you're not sure what is real. But I do remember that really clearly. So yeah, tough times. And yeah, so and this was in 2005. All social situations involved alcohol back then, across the board for everyone, I think, including me, out of chemotherapy. My official line is now that I don't drink. I do drink, but I just very rarely have any alcohol really at all, which is weird considering I teach cocktail classes still. But I don't need alcohol really in my life. I don't miss it, not having it. I'm fine without it. But back then, I remember getting drunk and this must have been in chemotherapy time, not in still feeling sore from having the testicle removed times. But I remember running from my dad's house in Newby into town, and being drunk. Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe I was running back to my dad's house. But I remember thinking like, this is easy. I'm fine. But I think it was just that drunkenness of having a load of energy from being a bit tipsy. But yeah. Yep. Very strange times, and not all that difficult from what I remember. I do regret not telling more people, not reaching out to more people, not asking for more people to come and see me, because maybe I was a bit lonely in the hospital. And that's another anecdote actually about my time in the hospital. So I had a Discman and obviously had CDs with me long before, I think, in fact, iPods were out. I did not own an iPod, too poor to be having an iPod, but I had a pile of CDs with me, and knowing that I was going in for surgery, I bought a load of new albums, and it was, this might be how I could date it, I can't remember what year it was, but the Plans by Death Cab for Cutie came out, and there's a pretty famous song on that called I Will Follow You Into the Dark. Yes, Bruce. And it's a sad song. It's about someone dying and you following them into the dark. I guarantee that from now, anyone who is even remotely into Death Cab for Cutie, it's going to be every funeral song ever, just like Wind Beneath My Wings and things like that. That from then that became famous as a funeral song. I Will Follow You Into the Dark will be a funeral song. And I really enjoyed that album. I was quite excited about it. And I remember showing one of the nurses, because I think she asked me what I was listening to, and I was like, it's this band Death Cab for Cutie. They've got like a really weird sounding band name, but they've got this song, I'll Follow You Into the Dark, let me play it for you. While I was in hospital for chemotherapy for cancer, playing a very clear funeral song, but I did not put those things together. I was just like, I quite like this song. It's pretty good. And weird thing to not notice. Absolute blindsided by my own stupidity for that one. That you probably shouldn't be like, yeah, I think I'm ready to go, and this is the song to a nurse. I wasn't ready to go, and I never thought I was going to die, because like I said, it never really sank in. I never really felt like I was faced with my own mortality. Never felt like that. It just was an inconvenience, just like, I don't know, getting a cold. I was like, and not being able to breathe through your nose when you're like, I can't breathe through my nose, and you just kind of get on with work and you still turn up to everything. And that's what it felt like to me, like, I can't do these things for now. I had some time off work because I worked in a cocktail bar and a lot of people coming and going. That isn't ideal for when you're fresh out of chemotherapy because of your dipped immune system. I had a fair bit of time off work, and I was just like, well, I can't go to work. And I wanted to, really. I wanted to be at work, but couldn't. So yeah, so I think that is my whole story about having chemotherapy in my mid-20s, around 23, 20 years ago, almost to the day, possibly. So yeah, so if you've got any questions about it, I would be really happy to help. If you are struggling with chemotherapy, or if you're due for chemotherapy and you are scared about it, I would be happy to go through how I felt about it and the things that I remember about it from that time. But I do think that cancer treatment has moved on in the 20 years. I'm pretty sure the support system for it has also changed, and I think it is a little bit easier for most people now. But yeah, so that is it. Chemotherapy, testicular cancer, pretty tough times, but if you're young and naive, I think you can get away with it just fine. But the most important thing, check your junk, and if you find something, get it checked out. Go see someone, and hopefully you'll be all good. All right. Thank you so much for listening to me. Appreciate you. See you soon. Bye.